If there truly is a fountain of youth, my bet is that it's on the web. Because if it isn't now, I'm sure some youth app is right around the corner. Hi there, I'm Dan Kaminsky, CEO and co-founder of HomeAdnet. Welcome to episode 8 of Tuned In. Speaking of youth, we have a very special guest on the show today. Alex Cote is a young, up-and-coming agent with Sanja Renomato Realty in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Alex is part of the new wave of agents who have grown up with the web. Today, we're going to learn how digital and social media fits in with Alex's marketing strategy. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you.
By the way, you may realize or not, but you happen to share a name with HomeAdnet's favorite little helper, Alex, the real estate agent.
Yes, that's the whole reason I got into realty.
Well, with a great name like that, I think you're definitely destined to be very successful.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, we are really excited that you chose to join us on HomeAdnet. It's been great having you on the network, and you've been extremely supportive and ever since we first met, and I just wanted to personally thank you for that. So I just wanted to start, when we met was sort of your pre-agent days. You've moved up the ranks at the Renomato Realty. Why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of where you started with the company, the different roles that you had leading up to today, where now you're a full-fledged agent.
Sure. Well, I started out as a part-time administrative assistant, sort of just working evenings and weekends while I finished my education. And then once I received my certification in professional coaching, I moved on to being a full-time office administrator and soon enrolled in my real estate courses. And now I have my license, so I'm a licensed realtor working for the brokerage.
What did you learn while you were an assistant, and how do you apply that experience to your role now?
I learned so much. I knew very little about real estate when I started in the brokerage. And I think what's most striking about what I learned and what I'm bringing forward the most is about how involved and also how many people are involved in one single real estate transaction. So in looking at one listing alone, you can be speaking with the listing agent, the sellers, potential buyers agents, members of the public, people who walk in off the street, open house attendees, ad bookers, real estate photographers, printers, printer houses, lawyers, the list goes on. And in addition to those live contacts that you have, you're also making tons of digital contacts, like through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Craigslist, Kijiji, etc. So ultimately, the final transaction is taking place between two parties and the representatives. Hundreds, if not thousands, are witness or participate in that sale. So in that administrative position, I learned a lot about how orchestrated real estate is, and also the most efficient and impactful ways to orchestrate and, in a way, compose the process.
Well, with all those people involved, I think safe to say it sounds like real estate is a relationship business.
Absolutely. It is 100% a relationship business. And I really enjoyed, just the administrative side, building those relationships with the people who work at the newspapers, with the real estate photographers, all those people. It's really great and bringing those relationships forward in a new sense now.
So is there one reason or an influence, that drew you to get into the real estate business? Because, the fact that you went through a number of steps, you obviously chose the real estate industry. What made you go there?
Well, to be honest, I think it all started with property versions with Sanja Renomato show on HGTV. Because before I moved to Toronto, I discovered the show and I marathoned through all the 10 seasons. And I love that so many of the episodes were shot in Toronto. So it was a way for me to get to know the city before I moved here. And in a sense, my introduction to Toronto was through that real estate framework. And when I moved here, I continued to explore the city in that framework. And I remember my first week in Toronto, my cousin picked me up and we happened to drive past the office, Sanja Renomato Realty, and I had this total fangirl moment, like, oh my God, that's where my real estate superhero works. Like, this is real. What a cool business. What an interesting industry. And later that day, my friend suggested, you're looking for part-time work. All you do is talk about real estate. Why don't you try working in a real estate office? And it just so happened that day, Sanja Renomato Realty posted for for a position. So I kind of felt like it was meant to be. I went to the interview and got the position, and I really got to know the industry, behind the scenes, and was really interested in it. And a few months later, I talked to Sandra about becoming an agent, and she really encouraged me to get my license and to move forward with that. And so if your real estate agent superhero tells you she thinks you've got what it takes, you listen.
I love stories like that. I mean, there's passion there. I mean, something you really enjoy, and you sort of chase that dream. And I'm so thrilled for you that it's sort of been carried forward for you, and obviously you're working very hard for it.
Thank you. I'm having so much fun.
Well, I had the pleasure to meet Sandra too. I mean, it was actually when we first met in person when I came by the agency, and she was very supportive and introduced me to her team there. And you got a really cool office, great team there. So it just seems like a real wonderful place to work.
It is. Yeah, I love the team, and it's like my Toronto family. I really love everyone at that office.
You did mention a little earlier, but I've noticed that you call yourself the property coach. Why don't you tell us a little bit what that's all about?
About a year ago, I completed my studies and earned my professional coaching designation, which is ATC, and that stands for Adler Trained Coach. And professional coaching is, in essence, providing the safe space, framework, and skills needed for our clients to reach their goals. So while working admin at the brokerage, I began to draw similarities between my work as a coach and the work that real estate agents do. And while the goals of the clients I was working with at the time were very different of those coming to the brokerage, I saw an opportunity to apply my coaching skills to their needs as well. And as far as my research has revealed, I am the first and only real estate agent who also has a professional coaching designation. And yeah, I think what's interesting about that is professional coaching is the second fastest growing industry after IT right now. And I think that's telling us that today's consumer is really more holistic in their consumption, and they're looking for ways to be more authentic, to identify and use their strengths, to honor their values, and to really be their whole selves in the way they interact with the world. And I think real estate can be a way for people to achieve those wants and to grow from the experience. So, if you just look for over 90% of us, I believe it is, buying real estate is the single biggest investment we make in our life. And so traditionally, I think real estate, the industry focuses on the financial aspect of that investment. What is less talked about and less addressed is the emotional investment that's being made by buyers and sellers. And I think anyone who's been in the business can easily agree that, yes, the emotional experience is present and powerful.
Anyone who's bought a house could relate to that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the emotional experience can manifest, in many ways, including the basement of the 12th house you see that day.
Right.
So most realtors just aren't trained to, or they don't want to address it or use it as an opportunity to grow and move closer to their clients' goals, ultimately to buy or sell a property. So I kind of feel that the competencies I acquired during my coaching training are directly applicable to reaching my clients' goals, and they'll help to provide a more holistic experience which supports and informs their emotional investment just as much as their financial investment. And that's why I'm the property coach.
Well, I mean, I can say firsthand. I mean, I remember when I bought my first house, and even we recently bought a new home, and the frustration and the emotions, everything that the financial fears, it really can rock you to your core. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing, because creating that real solid hand that your client can hold and feel comfortable, and you can walk them through the steps and let them step forward in confidence that they're doing the right thing, and that you're going to lead them through navigate through the waters, because it can get frustrating, it can get complicated. So I can see firsthand how that would just work really, really well.
It might not be for everyone. Not everyone wants to speak about their emotions or to take that time to process what's happening. But it's not like if you work with a property coach, you have to talk about your feelings. It's just there. I'm there as a resource. If you want to use me, I'm happy to help.
I just see it as another layer in your communication toolbox. It's such a dynamic industry, and you have that level of communication ability that, let's say, the average won't have. And like you said, and you may not be coaching them directly, but certainly making them feel comfortable that you know what you're talking about, and they can trust you.
That's the goal.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, in the spirit of my new wave angle, I mean, marketing really has evolved for all industries. Finding that edge. I mean, your property coach angle. I mean, you want to create that identifier that separates you from your direct competition, right? And
Right.
something that identifies you. One of the reasons we started HomeAdnet, we identified a bit of a gap on how agents were actually leveraging the opportunity that digital, and when I say digital, I'm talking about online, I'm talking about video, I'm talking about interconnecting the different layers of web and social media. And I find some agents who maybe have some legacy, have been in the business a long time, obviously they have their circle of clients, but there's a lot of younger agents coming up who were sort of born in the social media era and are very, very comfortable with it. Do you feel that it is an advantage for you?
Absolutely. I see it as an advantage because I kind of consider it one of my first languages, and therefore I feel I am fluent in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by this is that I can read it and I can understand sort of the language structure. That being said, I think anyone can learn to read social media, but I do think I have an advantage having it as kind of a mother tongue. For example, I could show my mom how to use Twitter, and she could learn how to read that platform and learn where all the buttons are and symbols and understand what they do. But it's truly sort of a second language for her. And if and when that Twitter page upgrades or the platform changes, I think my rate of adapting to that change will be much faster than hers, just because we're more fluent in the language.
Well, some people are so afraid of technology, and then when they look at things like social media, the first thing they think about is technology, especially from a business standpoint. I mean, let's forget about logging into Facebook and liking pictures of people's cats and things like that. But for but for a real estate agent who has been in the business, let's say 15, 20 years, and they have to adapt to change, I'm finding a lot of resistance, and every one of them knows they have to do it. But then when it comes down to doing it, they say they just don't have the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually give workshops, and I've done research on this, and statistics show that 90% of home buyers and sellers use the web as their information source. That means
Right.
they're looking for an agent, they're looking for a property. When they first get that idea that they want into some real estate transaction, they're starting online. But yet 58% of agents are reporting that less than 5% of their business is actually being generated from their websites,
Mm.
included in which are 32% who are saying they're getting no business at all from their websites. I see that as a huge opportunity. And for those who are very comfortable on the web and social media, I definitely see that as a real opportunity. What percentage of your marketing time would you say is spent online marketing, and what sorts of things are you doing?
I probably dedicate about 25% of my marketing time on online initiatives, but in reality, I spend closer to 30 to 40% just by virtue of always being connected. I spend that dedicated time on writing and researching blog posts or on reporting on activities such as upcoming open houses or new listings, or following up with posts or Twitter conversations and keeping my profiles up to date. But that dedicated time is always supplemented by my day-to-day activities. For example, my Twitter activity goes up considerably whenever I'm in a waiting room or early to an appointment.
That's a good use of waiting room time.
Yes, absolutely.
We notice you love to blog, and you're probably one of the most active bloggers on our network. Where do you get your inspirations and ideas for your blogs?
That's a good question. I either get it sort of organically, as in I have the question or the thought myself, or someone suggests it to me or asks me that question, and I think, okay, there's something I can address and something I can answer. But if I'm kind of short on inspiration, I usually go on Twitter, and I find my inspiration there. I'll check my news feed and see what people are talking about, what their questions are, and also what sort of topics could be trending.
It's interesting because that's also something, when I talk about in my workshops, is the importance of content and how that relates to your website. I mean, it's just natural if you have great content and people want to read it, that's just going to help your traffic because people are willing to stop by and see what you're writing. It's also good for your search engine optimization. I mean, Google is indexing your site, and all this new content keeps getting added to your site. It's full with all these keywords that are relative to your business. There's nothing but good that can come out of it. And often people say, well, I'm not a blogger. I'm not really into blogging. And I said, well, blogging is just a form of communication. And if you're an expert in a particular market, you've probably got tons of stories that you could share, so why not stop and put it pen to paper, and it's just something great to feed your website. And it goes a long way to just building up your organic search results for your website. I mean, there's nothing but good that can come from it. So I like to hear that you're sort of drawing inspiration from a simple question. If you gave someone a great answer, then why not write it down and share it with your audience?
Yeah, exactly.
So since you have been a member of our network, I'm curious how HomeAdnet fits into your overall marketing plan.
HomeAdnet is so convenient. I really appreciate that it centralizes all my activities so they can occur on one platform. But more importantly, that platform is designed to support what I'm setting out to do. And I really love that I'm in a digital space with other realtors. So when I log into HomeAdnet, I kind of feel like I'm going to work at my social media office with my fellow realtors. And I think having that dedicated space helps keep me focused on why I'm there and what I'm there to achieve. So working on that platform, I'm much less likely to get distracted by the black hole of entertainment that is the internet.
The Facebook black hole.
Yes. It always somehow leads to Kim Kardashian.
especially lately.
Especially lately, yeah.
Well, I mean, we love to hear that because we certainly don't downplay the importance of Facebook and Twitter. I mean, quite the opposite. We're huge supporters, and we've worked to create a good tether to what we call mainstream social. But your points about sort of keeping you away from the noise and clutter and keeping you in that sort of real estate world keeps you kind of focused on what you need to be doing and keeping you connected to multiple networks at once.
Absolutely. And it's great, too, to see on the network what other realtors are doing, and that sort of motivates you, too, and invites opportunities to collaborate and to comment. And I think real estate can be a very lonely business, but it certainly doesn't have to be. There's more than enough to go around, and I'm really a collaborator at heart, so I love that HomeAdnet has that platform that supports that and encourages that.
A website solution and a social network all bundled into one. Who knew, huh?
Who knew?
Who knew? So now I'm about to ask you the big question. Are you ready for the big question?
Okay, I'm ready for the big question.
Where do you see online marketing going as it evolves?
Holograms.
Huh.
I don't mean to get all beam me up, Scotty, but I think we're close. We have 3D TVs and phones and cameras, and I don't think it'll be that long before you can actually offer a virtual tour of your listing.
Wow.
I'm hopeful. But that being said, I definitely see the presence of online media continuing to grow and definitely becoming more sophisticated as a result. I don't see it going anywhere. I only see it becoming stronger. And especially as more and more new buyers come on that all speak this social media language, the market needs to continue to be fluid in that and to speak that language with them.
Well, I admire your vision, and I'm happy to say that we speak the same language. Before we forget, if someone wants to find you on the web, how do they do that?
Oh, they can go to torontopropertycoach.com.
Alex, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.
My pleasure. And we hope our listeners have enjoyed the show. As always, we love your feedback, so send us your comments anytime. And thanks again for being tuned in.